1933, New Jersey. It's the dead of night. A family of 4 is singing Old MacDonald's almost at their destination, Atlantic City. They're having a grand time until BAM! One of their tires pops. Dad gets out to fix the wheel. As he's looking at the pop, something grabs him by the ankles and drags him into the pitch-black woods. When his body is found the next morning, he's missing a leg. The bites around his injuries appear to be human. Was this the work of some deranged cannibal living in the woods, or perhaps something much stranger? That's what we're here to find out today, folks. That was the cold open to episode 5 of the first season of The X-Files, titled The Jersey Devil. This week, we'll be discussing episode 5 of The X-Files, as well as some of the folklore around the real-life Jersey Devil, which may or may not be in your backyard.
Presenting your host, Cuddy Five.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Odd But Fair, for that wonderful theme song. Welcome back, everybody, to TV Report Tuesday. This show is the only show on the internet that we film in front of a pile of dirty dishes. What a show we have for you today, folks, where we're going over Season 1, Episode 5 of The X-Files, The Jersey Devil, and the surrounding folklore. So, without further ado, let's get right into the summary portion of the episode. Season 1, Episode 5, Jersey Devil. Cold open. You guessed it, we open in a dark woods at nighttime in New Jersey. That's a choice. A family is driving to Atlantic City as the tire pops. Dad gets out to replace it, and as he does, he drops his flashlight off to the side of the road. He grabs it, and as he asks his wife to hold the flashlight, he's pulled away from the car. The wife responds by screaming his name, Paul, into the woods. The next morning, state troopers storm the crime scene to find pants. Paul's apparently had his leg eaten off. Investigators then discover a cave, which they blindly shoot into, making it an A+ representation for the cops. Act 1. Back in headquarters, Scully walks into the basement to find Mulder looking at an adult magazine. She gets him to put it down and tells him about the case. At which point, she acts surprised when Mulder reveals that there's an X-file for this exact phenomenon tied to a piece of folklore known as the Jersey Devil. Mulder gives her a 1974 case to read that's nearly identical to the current one. In the time since 1947, it appears the case has disappeared. Mulder determines that the team needs to go to Atlantic City, which we should all know really is just him being interested in a weekend in AC of gambling and drinking. Mulder, you dog. At the coroner's in Atlantic City, the local expert confirms the bite marks on the body are humans, and then she turns them to Detective Thompson, who naturally gets upset that the FBI want to help him. He asks them to leave and tells Mulder he refuses to work with them. As they leave, Scully says the FBI has no jurisdiction on a homicide case, at which point Mulder offers to take Scully out for a night of drinking and gambling. Scully says she needs to go home for her godson's birthday, and predictably, Mulder stays in Atlantic City to gamble on his theory about the Jersey Devil. The next day, Mulder is with a park ranger looking at the crime scene. The park ranger tells him that he's seen a lot of weird stuff, including something matching the exact description of the Jersey Devil. Mulder asks him if he suspects the Jersey Devil murdered Paul. The park ranger says that he's not going to confirm that because he wants to collect his pension. Classic pensioner. Meanwhile, Scully is at her godson's party, which apparently was real. The kids are all insufferable with their non-stop kazooing, and Scully's sister tells her that she'd be a great mother. Scully's sister recommends she date Mulder. Mulder, who's still skulking around the woods looking for the Jersey Devil. Back at the party, a man named Robert shows up, and Scully can't take her eyes off him. Cut to Atlantic City, where Mulder is looking into a homeless encampment, looking to see if anybody knows Roger Crockett, who was killed by the Jersey Devil 2 days ago. One of the homeless men approach Mulder and says they'll show him something for some cash. Mulder makes the deal and gets shown a hand drawing of the Jersey Devil, which the man claims a bunch of homeless people have seen, but the cops don't care. It's because this will inevitably mess with Atlantic City's famous tourism scene. Mulder offers the man his hotel room so that he can sleep in the alley over the night and hopefully get a glimpse of the Jersey Devil. Later that night, Mulder is sleeping in the alley and is awoken by a subject that looks just like the homeless man's drawing. It's the Jersey Devil. And when he gets a whiff of Mulder, he runs. Mulder tries to pursue the Jersey Devil when he's confronted by local police, who are more threatened by Mulder cosplaying as a homeless man than the real-life Jersey Devil, who actually eats people. Act 2. Detective Thompson asks Mulder what the heck he's doing. Mulder confronts Thompson on all the accounts of the Jersey Devil from the homeless people that he's been ignoring. Thompson makes up some garbage about wanting to protect people, but Mulder calls him out, saying he's just interested in protecting the town's tourism industry by covering up the Jersey Devil. Thompson lets Mulder go. Back in D.C., Scully gets a call from Mulder, who needs her to pay for his bail after he got locked in the drunk tank. Seriously, Mulder, I think you have a problem. Over dinner, Mulder shares his Jersey Devil story with Scully, who still hasn't learned how to believe him. Scully says she needs to get back to D.C. for a date with Roger, so she can't stay and investigate the Jersey Devil. Mulder tells her to cancel. She says, unlike Mulder, she has a life, even though I'd argue discovering the Jersey Devil is much more interesting than going on a date with a man named Robert. The two go to the University of Maryland to listen to an academic talk about the folklore surrounding figures like Sasquatch and Yetis, which, according to him, isn't a real character but a universal myth. Mainstream academia much? In continuing the conversation, the professor declares that unless an alien species is introduced, humans will maintain global superiority. Well, what about cats? The whole conversation ends with Mulder asking if it's possible that a version of man raised in the wild might exist, and the professor says it would be an amazing discovery. Later, Scully is on a date with a man named Robert, who obviously has red flags written all over his dreams. The dream he chooses to talk about over dinner is one where he runs over his ex-wife's new husband. Yeesh. Robert asks Scully about her current case, which she declines to talk about, likely out of fear of seeming crazy to the man who just shared his dream of running over his ex-wife's new husband. Meanwhile, Mulder gets a call about a corpse that matches the description of the Jersey Devil. Mulder calls Scully, who couldn't be more excited to have a reason to abandon Robert. To Act 3. We open on Scully and Mulder at the coroner's office with the local park ranger to find that the local authorities have disappeared the body so that people aren't scared to come to Atlantic City and gamble. Very important. Now, Scully and Mulder have a little entourage forming with the park ranger and the Maryland professor. The professor and the ranger investigate an abandoned factory and find clothes that might belong to the Jersey Devil covered in blood. Meanwhile, local Atlantic City PD surround the facility that they're investigating. As they're looking, Mulder waxes poetic to Scully on how different the Jersey Devil could be from the Homo sapiens and how disastrous humans are for the planet. Heard. The local PD finally enter the building and ask the professor if he's seen Mulder. The professor plays it ice cold, so Mulder keeps poking around until he hears footsteps out of the window belonging to none other than the naked, hairy woman I've been referring to as the Jersey Devil. Naturally, Mulder chases the woman and Scully chases Mulder, leading them to an underground part of the factory that is surprisingly well lit. While walking through the basement, Mulder is jumped by the naked woman and knocked on the ground. Into Act 4. The naked woman straddles Mulder as Scully approaches the basement with her gun drawn. When Scully calls out for Mulder, the Jersey Devil runs away, and Scully says that Mulder is lucky his limbs didn't get eaten. Later, Scully is being yelled at over the phone for distracting from a murder investigation. The local park ranger approaches the group, informing them that the local Atlantic City Police Department have the woman surrounded. The group rushes to the park, hoping to tranquilize the woman before the Atlantic City Police Department can get to her. They manage to hit her, but she doesn't go down immediately. The Atlantic City Police Department end up reaching her first. Mulder and Scully hear shots in the woods. When they get to the scene, they find the Jersey Devil has been killed by the New Jersey Atlantic City Police Department. Rough. Mulder asks Thompson why he killed her, and Thompson says the same reason you kill a rabid animal, speaking to his total lack of empathy for a genetic mutant cannibal, which, fair. Back in their basement, Scully and Mulder discuss additional details that just get Mulder riled up, at which point Scully says he should get a beer, which, let's not enable him, Scully. Scully gets a call from Robert, that boring old man she was dating, and turns him down, so that she can go with Mulder on a romantic date to talk to a geneticist at the Smithsonian about their encounters with the Jersey Devil. So is the Jersey Devil real? That's the question. That's the question worth $1 million. Well, to figure that out, I guess we'll have to move to the research portion of the video. So, join me on our investigation of the Jersey Devil. Hello everyone, this is Research Cody, coming back from the investigation mines to give you the hot scoop on what's going on with the Jersey Devil. X-Files Season 1, Episode 5 presents the Jersey Devil as a genetic offshoot of humanity that's been blessed with superhuman strength, an amazing digestive tract, and police apparently love to shoot them. So, how does the Jersey Devil of the show compare with the Jersey Devil of folklore? We will be answering once and for all, is the Jersey Devil real, or was Mulder merely looking for a good reason to live it up in Atlantic City? So let's find out. So the first thing we want to address is that in this episode, Mulder and Scully face off against the Jersey Devil. The Jersey Devil itself actually does line up with a consistent amount of folklore from New Jersey. But the big problem is that immediately before I even read anything, the images that popped up all over the internet was one of a demonic horse-bird hybrid with horns, wings, and tails, none of which are presented as Jersey Devil characteristics in the X-Files episode. So we're off to a bad start. Immediately it appears that the case is a little bit off basis. Nonetheless, last week, we discovered that Iowa, specifically Dickinson County, the area that the X-Files episode 4 was set in, didn't really have a bunch of UFO encounters. So, unlike last episode, the Jersey Devil is founded on something that is ostensibly real. It just differs widely from the phenomenon described in the show. So, what is the Jersey Devil? And, what's this legend all about? Well, the legend actually goes back about 250 years ago, if you'd believe it or not. The supposed home of the Jersey Devil is the Jersey Pinelands. The Jersey Devil was designated in 1938 as the country's only state demon, which I think is fitting that it came from New Jersey. It was described as a kangaroo-like creature with the face of a horse, the head of a dog, bat-like wings, horns, and a tail. So what is the origin story of the Jersey Devil? This is going to get a little bit complicated. So the first story that I was able to find was dating back to, again, the 1700s, about 250 years ago, with a woman named Mrs. Leeds. Mrs. Leeds was a resident of Estville who was apparently very upset when she discovered that she was pregnant for the 13th time, which, fair. She was apparently so fed up with the news that she cried out, "Let it be the devil." Well, careful what you wish for, Mrs. Leeds. As the story goes, the child was delivered, and it was an adorable little baby devil. As far as the details are concerned, the baby screeched, unfolded its wings, and flew out into the swamp. Since then, there have been a number of stories surrounding the Jersey Devil. Some encounters include raiding chicken coops, killing farm animals, and at several points throughout Jersey's history, posses have even formed to hunt the devil. Alas, despite the fact that it sounds like several bounties have been put on the devil from the time of its conception, no one's been able to claim the rewards. Bummer. So, that's one way of talking about the origins of the Jersey Devil, but apparently the story can get a little bit more complicated. Another version of the origins of the Jersey Devil goes something like this. Mrs. Leeds was wife to one Daniel Leeds, who was a prominent member of the Quaker community, and he was a printer of almanacs. The controversy surrounding the Leeds stems from these almanacs, which incorporated astrological elements deemed heretical by devout members of the Quaker community. This controversy led Leeds to leave the Quaker community. Due to this stigma and Leeds' association with a despised British royal governor, saw Leeds become target to political rhetoric that accused him of working with the devil. After Daniel's death, his son, Titan Leeds, continued publishing almanacs with the family's crest, which included a wyvern, which is a mythical dragon-like creature with the wings of a bat. Sound familiar? So there is a totally realistic possibility that the conception of the Jersey Devil was really more or less born out of a rivalry between Benjamin Franklin and one Daniel Leeds in the New Jersey area, both distinguished printers of almanacs at the time. So that's a little interesting caveat on the origins of the Jersey Devil. And despite the fact that there is apparently some evidence that this is all just kind of, yellow journalism hearsay to tarnish a Quaker whose loyalty lied with the British government, this doesn't explain why sightings of the Jersey Devil continued. Let's talk about some of the sightings of the Jersey Devil, and we're just going to start with a broad overview of multiple cases. In about 1870, a Long Beach fisherman saw the Jersey Devil, apparently serenading a mermaid, so that's interesting. I don't know how that would work. In 1909, this is our best known encounter with the Jersey Devil. Councilman E.P. Whedon of Trenton was awoken by the flapping of wings outside of his window. Upon investigation, he saw cloven footprints in the snow. This sighting was the first of hundreds, apparently, that were all printed in local papers, and apparently the experience of these cloven footprints in the snow is a phenomenon that was recorded from towns all over Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. So this was a major sighting of the New Jersey Devil. And the last thing we'll talk about in regards to general sightings was in 1978, where two teenagers were ice skating in the Barrens and smelled the odor of a dead fish. Upon investigating, they saw two red eyes staring at them from the darkness, and obviously they ran away, because who wouldn't? And they claimed that that was the Jersey Devil. Apparently, there are still, to this day, some people who, if they're driving down the Garden State Parkway or the Atlantic City Expressway, will report about strange occurrences that they saw on the drive. So, with all that kind of being known, let's get a little bit into this really, really big sighting of the Jersey Devil in 1909, because this proves to be an incredibly significant outbreak of paranormal activity for this particular creature. So, the sightings lasted allegedly from January 16th to January 23rd. A wave of sighting rocked the region from New Jersey to Pennsylvania. These encounters created a genuine panic, which shut down schools, factories, and caused civilians to arm themselves. This all began not with an actual encounter with the Jersey Devil, but rather with the cloven tracks in the snow. These tracks were not of man or dog, and cut through fenced areas and roofed areas which would have been impenetrable to the deers. The encounters with the beast itself include a Pennsylvania postman, E.W. Minster, along with a police officer who saw a winged creature with a horse head. There was a group of firefighters in Camden, New Jersey, who saw the creature perched on a building and tried to hose it down. And finally, there were passengers on a trolley car in Haddon Heights that apparently saw the creature on the tracks with glowing red eyes. So this was a major outbreak of sightings surrounding the Jersey Devil. Again, what's notable here is that there's no listed evidence of any kind of harm that the Jersey Devil has done to anybody in the town, which greatly differs from its depiction in the X-Files. Obviously, multiple eyewitness accounts have registered a kind of horse-like creature with bat wings, so that's another thing that varies greatly from what we see in the X-Files. In real life, no one has ever claimed that the Jersey Devil looked anything like a Yeti or a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, right? So, I don't know. But anyway, let's talk a little bit more about this 1909 outbreak of sightings of the Jersey Devil, because in large part, this is a reason why the devil continues to exist the way that it does today. Because this outbreak ends up creating a local story that turns into a national sensation, right? And to this day, you'll have people theorizing about what the people in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware actually saw in that historic winter of 1909. As I was reading, it seems like the most likely theory was that the 1909 case was fueled by hysteria, which was caused by the misidentification of a real animal that's known as the sandhill crane. The sandhill crane typically aren't native to New Jersey, but it might have been blown off course during its migration. Traits common with both the devil and the sandhill crane are their 7-foot wingspans, their long necks, their 4-foot statures, and its rattling, screech-like call. True believers obviously write off the sandhill crane explanation because the crane lacks a horse head, for one, and the sheer amount of accounts that claim to have seen the Jersey Devil are very compelling. Nonetheless, no such waves of sightings of the Jersey Devil have occurred since the 1909 case, especially not at that scale. Even if the Jersey Devil was a sandhill crane, this event propelled the local legend into national infamy. And now the story is widely known. Widely known enough to be, first of all, the official mascot of New Jersey's hockey team, and obviously well known enough to be referenced in an episode of The X-Files. This is a piece of folklore that stretches back to the foundings of America, potentially started as a result of some political drama and tensions within the Quaker community, which really became a national headline around the time of 1909 and continues, as some believe, to be unresolved to today. So, what does this leave us? Let's talk about a conclusion for a second. Back to the X-Files. Unlike last week, there is a significant amount of evidence to confirm that the Jersey Devil is a real local legend that's had a major impact on the New Jersey community, all the way back to 250 years ago. While the episode's beast may share a name, it hardly matches the documented description from encounters with the real-life Jersey Devil. The X-Files present the Jersey Devil as a knockoff Bigfoot, while local legends present us with a much more dynamic creature that's part dog, part horse, part kangaroo, part crane, and part bat. So while the X-Files creature may share a name with the Jersey Devil, the portrayal of the Jersey Devil is incredibly inaccurate. Still, this X-File is, again, more credible than our last episode, so I can't claim this to be utter nutter butter, and due to the inaccuracies that we've talked about, we'll be giving X-Files Season 1, Episode 5 the score of complete malarkey. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join us next week when we go over the X-Files interpretation of AI. Is it AI next week? Sorry, nope. Next week we're going to be going over the X-Files poltergeist. All right, have a good day.